And there's always triumph, even in the midst of tragedy, and we saw it illustrated yet last week. A week ago Saturday, a young man in the GTA hung himself. His parents came home and found him. They tried to resuscitate him. They wrapped him in a blanket. It was all over. And so for the entire week, we reached out as a ministry to this family. And I'm happy to tell you, a few days later, his dad received Jesus Christ. And then on Saturday, upon our return from the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C., we went to the funeral. And because of the snowstorm, I was late. My wife left the Full Circle Conference, and she went and joined Karen Reeves, one of our team members. And together they presented a message of hope that Jesus Christ can meet the need, reminding us that we don't define a young man's life by the final 10 seconds, but we reflect on the preceding 16 years. What a great young man he was. I've never seen a funeral like it, though. It was overflow, hundreds of kids. And I showed up just in time to do the graveside. And at the end of the graveside, students came and placed roses and flowers on the coffin. They actually picked up shovels and started pouring dirt over the coffin. But you know what was so wonderful? We didn't just give a message orally and say Christ is the answer. We took this teen version of the book that Crossroads has produced, Suicide, Helping You and Your Friends to Live, and we gave it free of charge to every single student and parent that was in the funeral home. And I want to tell you, everyone wanted the book. And so I thank God, and my prayer is this week is that people will come to Christ. We want to remember this dear family. We'll sit down with them in future days at quiet moments to minister to them. It's a reminder, though, that there are people that are depressed. Now, let me remind you that both the adult version of Why They Die, Curing the Death Wish in Our Kids, and the teen version is available for your best gift of the Crossroads Ministry. But since those days, I've been called by Pembroke, Ontario, a grade 8 student, elementary school, has taken their life. I've been called by another community where 2 more of 7 preceding have taken their life. This is what we would call an epidemic. Thank God as a ministry we can stand in the gap. So we have resources available, and I hope today you will call, preferably before a tragedy occurs, like this precious young man who we watched and looked at his beautiful picture on the front of the funeral program, and we all breathed a prayer, dear God, whatever it takes, prevent this. The root of some of it is mental illness. Obviously, there's a spiritual vacuum. In our book, we try to tie all of the very, very difficult pieces together. And at the very end, we have that hopeful chapter that Jesus Christ can meet the need. We caught up with a young girl who told us her story. She's alive. Why? Because somebody saw she had a problem and went and met with her every Wednesday at 7 a.m. for 1 year before school. And after a year of carefully helping her through depression, she decided she could navigate those difficulties in life. Listen to her story. Katie, I look at you and the last thing I think about is depression, looking in your face.
I mean, it's really been around my whole life, but I noticed it when I was in middle school after being made fun of like day in and day out. And then the suicidal thoughts all started 10th grade, 9th grade, high school.
But you have a happy family and 5 sisters.
I do. My parents have been married for 25 years. I have 5 sisters. We're all biological. We go to church every Sunday. There's not any problems at all. It's just, I feel like my depression is I don't have enough serotonin or something like that. I was born with it.
How did you know that you were depressed?
I wasn't smiling. I wasn't laughing. Everyone always asked, like, why are you always so sad? Why aren't you happy? And I figured I didn't really know about it until my mom was telling me that my family has history of it. So then we took me to a counselor and they said that I had depression.
Tell me why you thought about taking your life.
One day I just realized that I wasn't having fun. Life wasn't, like everyone always said life is fun, they're out doing stuff. I rather had just been dead. Because, like, my family's really religious, and, like, I'd rather be in heaven being happy than living here. I felt like this was hell itself already.
So you formulated a plan to take your life. Tell me, what did you do?
I heard that, like, if your car was old enough, if you did the hose, you hooked it up and you put it in your car, that would actually kill you. And my car was an old car, so I hooked up the hose. I used a whole roll of duct tape, put it in, started the car, and sat there for about a minute. And I just started crying because, like, the question of, will I go to heaven? Because, like, what if hell is even worse than what I am right now? I don't know how I would deal with that. So I called my mentor, Christy Buck, and she came to my house, and we just sat there and talked, and she made me take everything off my car, made me go over to her house, and I thought that was the worst because I figured that was the lowest of lows. And then about, I'd say 3 weeks later, it all came back, and I told myself this time I wasn't going to chicken out because that was enough. So I went to Meijer and bought a hunting knife, and I started cutting myself in my car. And I'm not good with pain, so I was just a hot mess, and it wasn't good. And for some reason, I had the urge to turn on the radio. And so I was losing a lot of blood, and I was weak, and I went to go push on the radio, and my finger slipped over to the one that I don't normally listen to, and it was a Christian station. And the song from Matthew West, Strong Enough, was playing. And, like, if you ever listen to that song, it's talking about how you don't have to be strong enough to deal with it. You can talk to other people. And I realized that maybe it's okay that I'm not strong enough to be here, and I don't want to, and it's okay to get help.
If you were talking to a parent that had a son or daughter that was depressed, what would you say to them?
They need to talk to the kid and let them know that it's okay that they're feeling this. You can't make them feel like it's not normal, because it is. Like, so many people have depression problems, and it's okay to talk about it, and the parents need to go do research on it themselves, because if they don't have an understanding of what the kid is feeling like, they're not going to be sympathetic. They're not going to try to understand what they feel like.
Do you ever feel privileged that you were not a suicide statistic?
I feel like everything happens for a reason, and that I can share this so that other people, like, if a parent's sitting there thinking right now, thinking that maybe their kid is suicidal, that right now they will go and talk to them so that maybe my pain can save someone else some pain too.
And this is exactly why the parents of young Kyle, 16, who took his life in a suburb of Toronto, wanted the book, Not Suicide, the teen version of our Crossroads publication, given to every single student. You can make a difference. I can make a difference. I will tell you, I was rather dumbstruck at that graveside. I've been in this scene many, many times. But I just kept fixating on that coffin, thinking that could have been me. Never married, no children. Now we have a resource available in this dynamic book, Not Suicide, and then for the parents, it's available. And so please, think about a quantity for your entire high school, maybe your youth group, and let God use you. I never get used to this. No one does. And we all walked away extremely motivated. And remember, if you're struggling, if you're hurting, you say, Jerry, I've got those feelings in myself, and I'm a parent. Maybe you're a single parent. Our prayer line is available. You can call, and I promise you, we'll stand by lovingly, compassionately, and confidentially to give you hope in Jesus' name.